I made a mistake coming here tonight. That thought kept running through my head as I sat alone at table 7 in the wattle room of the Salt and Vine restaurant. I watched couples laugh over expensive bottles of Shiraz and desserts I could not afford, even if I wanted to order them. My mate Hamish had practically begged me to show up for this blind date with his cousin, claiming that a few months was long enough to hide from the world. It had been 2 years since I walked into my apartment and found Sophie in our bed with my business partner, Ben. 2 years since I lost everything in one night. The restaurant smelled like money and pine needles from the Christmas decorations. It was all white tablecloths and candles that probably cost more than my electricity bill at the cafe. I checked my mobile phone again. It was 7:18 in the evening. My date was 18 minutes late, and a large part of me hoped she would not show up at all. At least then I could leave without feeling guilty about wasting anyone's time. Hamish's last text message said she was perfect for me. But Hamish also thought starting a juice cleanse in December was a good idea, so his judgment was not exactly reliable. I was about to fake a work emergency at Laneway Espresso and bolt when I noticed her 3 tables over. At first I thought I was seeing things. What were the chances? But no, that was definitely Kylie O'Brien, sitting there in a navy blue dress, staring at her phone like it contained the worst news in the world. Sophie's mother. I had not seen her since the breakup. I had not spoken to her since that awkward telephone call where I tried to explain why I could not come to her birthday dinner anymore. During the 2 years Sophie and I dated, Kylie treated me better than my own parents ever did. She remembered I hated coriander and always made sure there was a cold beer or a hot cup of tea when I came over. She asked about my dreams for the coffee shop and actually listened when I talked about wanting to leave the corporate partnership that was slowly killing my soul. Now she sat there alone, and something felt wrong about the whole picture. Kylie was the kind of the person who lit up a room just by walking into it, but tonight she looked small and nervous. A waiter appeared at her table carrying a bottle of champagne, and I watched the whole scene unfold like a car accident in slow motion. The waiter's voice carried across the quiet restaurant. "Compliments of your date, madam." He pre-ordered this earlier to celebrate. Kylie looked up at him with confusion, then back down at her mobile phone. Her face went pale. "He is actually not coming," she said, and even from 3 tables away, I could hear her voice crack. "I will just pay for my water." The waiter's face fell. "Oh, I am so sorry," he announced way too loudly, like he was telling the whole restaurant about her failure. And that is exactly what happened. Every single person within 4 tables turned to look. Some pretended they were not staring, but I saw them whispering to their dinner partners. I saw them glancing over with pity or judgment, or maybe both. Kylie's hands shook as she reached for her purse, and I felt something twist in my chest. This woman had just finalised her divorce last year, after Sophie's father, Gary, left her for someone half his age. She had lost so much weight from stress and had to sell the house she loved because she could not afford it alone. Sophie had told me all this during one of our last fights, using her mother's pain as ammunition, saying I did not understand what real heartbreak looked like. I understood it now, watching Kylie try to gather her things while maintaining whatever dignity she had left. The couple next to her whispered something and the woman shook her head sadly. An older man 2 tables behind her caught my eye and shrugged like he was saying, "Women, what can you do?" My whiskey sat untouched in front of me. My own date was now 25 minutes late. Honestly, I had forgotten she existed. All I could see was Kylie counting out cash with trembling fingers. Her shoulders hunched forward like she was trying to disappear. This was not right. None of this was right. Kylie O'Brien brought me homemade soup when I had the flu during Christmas 2 years ago. She stood up to Sophie's dad at Thanksgiving dinner when he made a joke about my coffee shop plans being childish. She told me once that I reminded her of her younger brother who died in a car accident. She said I had the same kind heart he did. I could not just sit here and watch her leave humiliated while strangers whispered about her. My hand moved to my wallet before my brain caught up. Inside, tucked behind my expired gymnasium membership card, was my grandmother's ring. White gold with a small diamond, nothing fancy, but it meant everything. Nana Betty left it to me 3 years ago with a note saying, "Give this to someone who makes you believe in magic again." I had carried it ever since. I was not sure what else to do with it. I never thought I would use it for something like this. But watching Kylie stand up to leave, watching her blink back tears while the waiter apologised again, I knew exactly what I had to do. It was completely insane. It would probably blow up in my face. Hamish would think I had lost my mind, and Sophie would definitely hear about this somehow. But I was already standing up, already walking toward table 12, already committed to the craziest idea I had ever had. Kylie had her back to me, focused on putting her wallet away. She did not see me coming. Kylie was sliding her chair back when I dropped into the seat across from her. She looked up, startled, and for a second, neither of us moved. Recognition hit her face, followed by confusion, followed by something that might have been embarrassment. "Lachlan?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "What are you doing here?" I leaned forward and spoke loud enough for the nearby tables to hear, loud enough to drown out their whispers about her. "Kylie, darling, I am so sorry I am late." Traffic coming from the city was absolutely insane. There was an accident on Chapel Street and everything backed up for kilometres. She stared at me like I had grown a second head. Her mouth opened and closed twice before words came out. "I do not understand. You are not my date. I am supposed to be meeting someone named Robert from my book club. We have been planning this for weeks," I said, ignoring her confusion. Perfect. Now I had a name for the jerk who stood her up. I kept my voice steady and reached across the table to take her hand. She flinched at the contact, but did not pull away. "I know this seems confusing right now," I said, making sure the couple next to us could hear every word, "but I promise everything is going to make sense in just a minute. Please, just trust me." Kylie's eyes darted around the restaurant, landing on all the faces still watching her. She bit her lip, and I saw the exact moment she understood something strange was happening, but she did not know what yet. Her fingers tightened around mine. "Lachlan, what are you doing?" She hissed it this time, quieter. I stood up fast, my chair scraping against the floor with a screech that made everyone look over. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. This was it. No going back after this. I would either save her from this nightmare or make it 10 times worse. "Actually, I cannot wait another second," I announced to the entire room. Kylie's eyes went as wide as dinner plates. "What are you talking about? Wait another second for what?" Then I dropped to one knee right there on the hardwood floor between our tables. The restaurant went completely silent. Even the kitchen noise seemed to stop. I pulled my Nana Betty's ring from my pocket, held it up where everyone could see, and watched Kylie's face go from confused to shocked to absolutely frozen. "Oh my God," she whispered. "What are you doing?" I kept my voice low just for her. "Saving you. Just play along, please. I promise I will explain everything, but right now you need to trust me. You do not deserve this humiliation." Then I raised my voice for everyone else. "Kylie O'Brien. I have been planning this evening for weeks. I wanted everything to be perfect, but sitting here right now, I realize perfect does not matter. What matters is that I cannot imagine another day without you in my life." Kylie's hands were shaking. She kept looking at the ring, then at me, then at all the people watching us with their mobile phones out recording. "Lachlan, this is insane," she whispered. "We cannot do this. Your ex-girlfriend is my daughter. Will you marry me?" I said it loud and clear, and the restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Kylie's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time, but different from the humiliated tears I had seen before. These looked like panic and confusion and maybe something else I could not name. "You are out of your mind," she whispered. "Please, I whispered back. Just say yes. We will figure everything else out later. But right now, just let me give you an out from this horrible situation. You were kind to me when Sophie and I were together. You made me feel like family. Let me do this one thing for you. I watched her throat work as she swallowed. I watched her glance around at all the staring faces one more time. The waiter stood frozen near the kitchen door. The couple who had been whispering had their phones pointed at us. An older woman at the bar had her hand over her mouth. Kylie looked back at me and I saw the decision happen in her eyes before she spoke. Yes, she said, and it came out shaky and unsure. Yes, I repeated, making sure everyone heard. She nodded, and a smile that did not quite reach her eyes appeared on her face. Yes, Lachlan, I will marry you. The restaurant erupted. People started clapping and cheering like they'd just witnessed something beautiful instead of the most insane rescue attempt in history. I slid the ring onto Kylie's finger, and it fit perfectly, which felt like some kind of sign from the universe or Nana Betty or both. Kylie stared at it like it might bite her. I stood up and pulled her into a hug, partly for show and partly because she looked like she might faint. Against her ear, I whispered fast, I am so sorry for ambushing you like this. I saw you getting stood up and everyone staring, and I just could not let that happen. You were always so kind to me when Sophie and I were together. You did not deserve to sit here humiliated. Her arms came around my back slowly, returning the hug for the audience. You just proposed to your ex-girlfriend's mother in front of 50 people, she whispered back. Sophie is going to lose her mind when she finds out about this. What were you thinking? I was not thinking. I just acted. Suddenly, the waiter appeared at our table with the champagne Kylie's real date had ordered. His face split in a huge grin. Congratulations. This calls for a celebration. The champagne is on the house now. He popped the cork and more people clapped. A woman I had never met came up to take our picture, gushing about how romantic the whole thing was. Kylie smiled for every photo. She played the part perfectly, but I felt how rigid her shoulders were under my arm. We sat back down at her table because standing felt too exposed. The second we were somewhat alone again, Kylie leaned close. Okay, you need to explain what just happened right now. Start talking. Kylie's telephone call came through at exactly 8:47 the next morning. Her voice sounded as though she had been awake all night staring at the ceiling. Lachlan, we need to talk right now, she said. This situation is significantly larger than either of us anticipated. I was already halfway out the door of my small apartment above the shop before she finished the sentence. The panic in her tone made my stomach drop. I told her to meet me at Laneway Espresso in 20 minutes. I promised I would have answers ready, even though I had absolutely no idea what those answers would be. When I walked downstairs into my coffee shop, the morning air was cold and crisp. Usually, at this hour on a Wednesday, the shop would be quiet, occupied only by a few regulars reading the Herald Sun newspaper. But today was different. Kylie was already there, waiting by the window booth. She was wearing designer denim jeans and a cashmere sweater instead of the formal evening gown from last night. Yet she still looked more put together than I ever had in my entire life. Her mobile phone sat on the timber table between us. The screen displayed our proposal video. I slid into the seat across from her and just stared at the numbers below the video. Over 2 million people have watched us in less than 12 hours, I murmured, trying to make sense of how a random Tuesday night had turned into a spectacle that everyone in Melbourne seemed to know about. Kylie pushed her mobile phone toward me and pulled up her messages. My friend Diana called me 6 times before I even woke up, she said, her voice tight. She wants to throw us an engagement party next weekend. Your friend Hamish sent me a text message saying, congratulations, you legend, and look at this. She scrolled down to show me an electronic mail from a producer at Good Morning Melbourne. They wanted to film us at the restaurant where it happened and interview us about finding love again after hardship. I ran my hands through my hair. My former business partner, Ben, called to ask why he found out about my engagement from social media instead of from me. Half the customers who came in for their takeaway coffee this morning wanted to know about my fiance. This is spreading faster than a bushfire, Kylie whispered. We sat there in silence for maybe 3 full minutes. The espresso machine hissed in the background as my barista, a young university student named Jack, tried to keep up with a surprisingly long line of customers. We have 2 choices, I finally said, keeping my voice low. Choice 1. We tell everyone the truth right now. We explain that you got stood up, I panicked, and did something foolish to help, and the whole engagement is a fabrication. Or, Kylie asked. Or, I took a deep breath. We keep going with this charade for a few weeks until the attention dies down. Then, after the holiday season, we quietly say it did not work out and go our separate ways. Kylie twisted the ring on her finger. I noticed she was still wearing it, even though she had had all night to take it off. She looked out the window at the graffiti-covered laneway that Melbourne was famous for. If we tell the truth now, I look terrible twice, she said softly. First, I was rejected by a man who could not even bother to show up. Then I received a fake proposal because a younger man felt sorry for me. I do not think I can handle everyone knowing that. Her voice cracked a little on the last part, and guilt washed over me again. I nodded slowly. I understood exactly what she meant. Pride was a fragile thing, especially in this city. But if we keep pretending, she continued, turning back to me, we are committing to a real lie. My sister Sharon is going to want to meet you properly. Hamish is going to ask a million questions. We would have to keep this up through Christmas and New Year's Eve. That means family dinners and parties and constantly being around people who think we are actually together. I looked over at the counter. Jack was overwhelmed. The jar for tips was fuller than I had seen it in months. People were buying pastries and expensive cold brew coffee, whispering and pointing at us in the booth. Look at the shop, Kylie, I said. She frowned and looked around. It is busy. It is never this busy, I admitted. I am 3 months behind on the rent. The landlord gave me an eviction notice yesterday. I did not tell you last night because, well, it is embarrassing. But the truth is, if this shop does not make a significant profit by Christmas, Laneway Espresso is finished. Kylie's eyes widened. She looked from me to the customers, then back to me. The sadness in her eyes shifted into something else. Calculation. She sat up straighter, the vulnerability vanishing as her professional instincts took over. So, she said, tapping her fingernail on the table, you need the publicity to save your business. And I need the engagement to save my reputation. It sounds cold when you say it like that, I said. It is practical, she corrected. My ex-husband, Gary, sent me a message this morning. He was jealous. For the first time in 5 years, he looked at me and saw someone desirable, not just the woman he left behind. My boss at the museum actually complimented me today. Apparently, dating a younger business owner makes me relevant again. She took a sip of my coffee without asking. It was a bold move. Here's the deal, Lachlan. We help each other. I have 20 years of experience in public relations and event management. Your coffee is excellent, but your business management is terrible. The menu is confusing, and your staff are disorganized. I blinked. Excuse me? I will help you run this place properly for the next 3 weeks, she continued, ignoring my indignation. We will capitalize on this viral moment. We will turn Laneway Espresso into the destination of the summer. In exchange, you will be the perfect fiance. You will come to my family dinners. You will hold my hand at parties. You will make me look like the happiest woman in Melbourne. 3 weeks? I asked. 3 weeks, she confirmed. We keep this up through the holidays. Then in January, we issue a joint statement saying we realised we were at different stages in life. No drama, just a mutual, respectful separation. She extended her hand across the table. It was manicured and steady. Do we have an agreement, mate? I looked at her hand. I looked at the eviction notice still sitting in my back office. Then I looked at her face. Determined, proud, and terrifyingly intelligent. This was not the fragile woman from the restaurant anymore. This was a partner. I reached out and shook her hand. Her grip was firm. 3 weeks of being fake engaged to my ex-girlfriend's mother, I said, a nervous laugh escaping my throat. This is definitely the strangest agreement I have ever made. Kylie actually laughed, and it sounded genuine instead of polite. For what it is worth, Lachlan, last night was the first time in 2 years I felt anything other than lonely or angry. So, thank you for that, even if this whole situation is completely insane. We spent the next hour at the coffee shop working out the details of our story. We decided we would say that we had run into each other a few weeks ago at a library and started talking. We realised we had a connection, and things moved quickly from there. We would keep the part about me dating Sophie years ago because too many people knew that already, but we would say we had always had a spark that we never acted on back then. It felt strange creating a fake history with someone, but Kylie was surprisingly good at inventing details that sounded believable. Right as we were finishing up, my mobile phone rang with an unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. A woman's voice came through introducing herself as Sarah Chen from the Herald Sun newspaper. She wanted to do a feature story about our engagement for their holiday edition. She had seen the video and thought our story about second chances and unexpected love would be perfect for their Christmas special section. I looked at Kylie with wide eyes and mouthed the word newspaper at her. She went pale but nodded for me to keep talking. I told Sarah we would think about it and call her back, then hung up feeling dizzy. A newspaper wants to interview us, I said. This is not just social media anymore. This is becoming actual news. Kylie stood up and grabbed her coat. We need rules, clear boundaries about what we will and will not do. I am not comfortable with lying to reporters or doing television interviews. Social media is one thing, but actively seeking attention from the press feels wrong. I agree completely, I said. We decided right there that we would politely decline any media requests, keep our social media posts minimal, and just focus on convincing our immediate circles that this was real. If we kept our heads down and did not feed the story, surely it would die out naturally by January. At least, that was the plan. The days after our meeting at Laneway Espresso blurred together in a strange mixture of fabricated appearances and genuine conversations. We attended 2 holiday parties where strangers congratulated us, offering glasses of sparkling wine and asking how we met. We had dinner with Kylie's book club, where everyone wanted to hear the proposal story again. Somehow, we ended up spending more time together than our 3-week agreement technically required. Kylie was a force of nature. True to her word, she arrived at the shop every morning at 7 o'clock sharp. She reorganised the inventory system, taught Jack how to properly steam milk for a flat white, and place fresh native flowers on every table. The shop was busier than it had been in years, and for the first time I was not checking my bank account with a sense of impending doom. Then December 23rd arrived, hitting me harder than I expected. I found myself at the Melbourne General Cemetery at 10 o'clock in the morning, standing in front of my grandmother's grave. Nana Betty had raised me after my parents died when I was 8 years old. She had been gone for 3 years now, but the silence she left behind was still deafening. I was telling her headstone about the crazy fake proposal situation, feeling foolish for speaking aloud, when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Kylie walking up the gravel path, carrying a large bouquet of white lilies. She stopped when she saw me, surprise clear on her face. Lachlan, what are you doing here? I gestured at the grey stone in front of me. Visiting family, I said. Today is the anniversary of when she passed away. What about you? Kylie's expression softened with understanding. She pointed toward a large oak tree further up the hill. My mother, Eleanor, is buried just over that rise. She died 5 years ago today, right before Christmas. I come every year to ensure the gardener is doing his job properly. She tried to smile, but it looked fragile. We stood there for a moment in this strange shared space of grief. The wind rustled through the eucalyptus trees, carrying the scent of dry grass and summer rain. "Would you mind if I sat with you for a moment?" she asked. "I would like that," I said. We ended up spending 2 hours at the cemetery. It was not part of the plan. It was not for the cameras or the gossip columns. It was just two people who understood what it meant to lose someone important and still show up on the difficult days. Kylie told me about her mother, a woman who taught her that a lady never leaves the house without lipstick, but who also knew how to fix a leaky pipe and change a car tyre. "Eleanor would have liked you," Kylie said quietly as we walked back towards the parking area. "She always said the measure of a person was what they did when nobody was watching. You helped me that night at the restaurant when you had nothing to gain from it. That would have mattered to her." I felt something warm spread through my chest at those words. Nana Betty would have called this whole fake engagement situation absolute rubbish. I laughed. But then she would have made us a lamb roast and told us to figure it out. She was practical like that. Kylie laughed, and the sound was genuine. "Do you want to grab lunch? I do not feel like being alone right now, and I'm guessing you do not either." We drove to a small bakery on Lygon Street called Barney's Bakery. It had been there forever, smelling of yeast and meat pies. We slid into a corner booth ordering sausage rolls and vanilla slices. The conversation shifted from grief to lighter things and then to the past. "Why did you really leave the partnership with Ben?" Kylie asked, wiping a flake of pastry from her lip. "Sophie always said you and Ben had a great dynamic, but you wanted to chase some childish dream of owning a coffee shop." I hesitated. My instinct was to deflect, to make a joke, but looking at Kylie across the table, with her guard down and her eyes kind, I figured honesty was easier than making up another story. "Ben and Sophie were having an affair," I said. The words tasted like ash, even after 2 years. Kylie froze. Her coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. "I walked in on them at the office Christmas party 2 years ago," I continued, keeping my voice steady. "I found them in the supply closet. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my relationship, my best friend, my business, fell apart in about 30 seconds. Kylie's face went through several emotions quickly. Shock, anger, sympathy. Then it settled on something that looked like profound sadness. "I did not know Ben was involved," she whispered. "Sophie told me you two just grew apart. She said it was mutual." "Yeah, well," I said, looking down at my plate, "your daughter has a talent for rewriting history to suit herself." The words came out, more bitter than I intended, and I immediately felt guilty. "Sorry, that is not fair. She is your daughter. I should not speak about her like that." But Kylie shook her head firmly. She reached across the table and placed her hand over mine. Her skin was warm. "No, Lachlan, you are right to be angry. Sophie hurt you badly, and she lied to me about it. I am so sorry she did that to you. I am sorry I did not reach out after the breakup," she added. "I wanted to, but it felt inappropriate since she is my daughter. I thought I was respecting boundaries, but perhaps I was just being a coward." We sat with that honesty for a moment, and I realised this was the first real conversation Kylie and I had ever had. When I dated Sophie, Kylie had always been kind but distant, the polite mother-in-law figure. Now, sitting across from her without that awkwardness between us, I could see why people were drawn to her. She listened when you talked instead of just waiting for her turn to speak. "You know," I said, turning my hand over so I could lace my fingers with hers. It was an intimate gesture, one not required for the fake engagement, but I did it anyway. For the last 2 years, I thought I was the one who was not enough, not rich enough, not successful enough. "That is nonsense," Kylie said fiercely. "You are more of a man than Ben or Gary will ever be." The air between us shifted. It became charged, heavy with something new. It wasn't the gratitude from the restaurant, and it wasn't the business partnership from the coffee shop. It was attraction. Genuine, terrifying attraction. My mobile phone buzzed on the table, breaking the moment. It was a text message from my supplier, but the spell was broken. Kylie gently pulled her hand away and checked her watch. "We should go," she said, her voice slightly breathless. My sister Sharon wants you to come to dinner tonight. She is very suspicious about how fast this all happened, and I think she is planning to interrogate you. Sharon is the one who works in legal services, right? I asked, signalling for the bill. Yes. She can smell a lie from 5 kilometres away, Kylie warned, standing up. So tonight, we have to be perfect. No slipping up. I stood up and held the door open for her. As she walked past me, I caught the scent of her perfume. Something like jasmine and rain. Don't worry, Kylie, I said, and I realised I meant it. I am not acting anymore. She stopped and looked back at me, her blue eyes searching mine. For a second, I thought she might kiss me right there on the busy pavement of Lygon Street. Instead, she just smiled. A small, private smile that made my heart hammer against my ribs. Good, she said, because I think I might be forgetting my lines too. Christmas Eve arrived faster than I expected, bringing with it a humid heat that settled over Melbourne like a heavy blanket. Kylie called me in the afternoon, sounding more nervous than I had ever heard her. My sister Sharon wants you to come to dinner tonight, she said. She is very suspicious about how fast this relationship has progressed. I think she is planning to interrogate you. I am sorry, I replied, wiping sweat from my forehead as I closed the coffee shop. I know this was not part of the deal. I showed up at Kylie's family home in the suburb of Camberwell at 6 o'clock with a bottle of expensive Pinot Noir and a knot in my stomach. Sharon opened the door with her arms crossed and eyes that could see straight through lies. She looked me up and down like I was a suspect in a serious crime. So, you are engaged after one date? Sharon asked, blocking the doorway. That is either fate or complete insanity, and I am trying to figure out which one applies here. Kylie appeared behind her sister and shot me an apologetic look. Sharon, be nice. Lachlan, come in. Please ignore my sister's hostile interrogation tactics. Dinner was tense. We sat around a table laden with roast turkey and seafood, the air conditioner humming loudly in the background. Sharon asked pointed questions about how we reconnected and why things moved so quickly. I stuck to our rehearsed story about running into each other at the library and feeling an unexpected connection. I realised that sometimes you know quickly when something feels right, I said, looking at Kylie. It was supposed to be a line from our script, but as I said it, looking at the way the candlelight caught her hair, it felt dangerously like the truth. Sharon was not buying it completely, but Kylie jumped in with stories about how kind I had always been when I dated Sophie, how I had helped her fix her computer once and brought her soup when she was sick. Sophie mentioned you opened a coffee shop, Sharon said, cutting into her turkey with more force than necessary. How is that going? I swallowed hard. It is going okay, struggling a bit with the usual new business challenges, but I am working through it. I did not mention the $15,000 I was behind on rent or the eviction notice sitting in my desk drawer. That felt too personal to share with someone who already did not trust me. After dinner, Sharon cornered me in the kitchen while Kylie was in the bathroom. She stepped close and lowered her voice. I do not know what is really happening here, Lachlan, but my sister has been lonely since the divorce. Really lonely in a way that worries me. She puts on a brave face, but I know her. If this is real, then good. She deserves happiness. But if you are playing some game or using her to get back at Sophie, I will make your life extremely difficult. Are we clear? I met her eyes and spoke honestly. I am not trying to hurt Kylie. Not trying. I promise you that whatever this is, I am taking it seriously. Sharon studied my face for a long moment, then nodded once and walked away. I thought the dinner with Sharon was the hardest part of the holidays. I was wrong. Sophie showed up at Laneway Espresso 3 days after Christmas. I knew the second I saw her face that this was not going to be a friendly visit. She walked straight up to the counter where I was making drinks for the morning rush and slammed her mobile phone down on the timber surface so hard that 2 customers turned to stare. On her screen was our proposal video with over 2 million views, and her face was red with anger. "You are dating my mother?" she hissed, her voice trembling. "My actual mother? Are you out of your mind?" I felt my whole body go tense because I had been dreading this conversation for weeks. I tried to stay calm and asked if we could talk somewhere private, but Sophie was not interested in privacy. "This is disgusting, Lachlan," she yelled, and the cafe went quiet. "You are clearly trying to get revenge on me for what happened 2 years ago. You are using her to hurt me, and it is pathetic." "That is not true," I said, feeling anger rising in my chest. "This has nothing to do with you." Before I could respond further, the door opened and Kylie walked in, carrying pastries she had picked up from the bakery down the street. She stopped dead when she saw Sophie. Her face went pale. Sophie turned on her immediately, her voice getting even louder. "Mum, what are you thinking? He is my ex-boyfriend. This is so messed up. Everyone is talking about how desperate you must be to date someone half your age who used to be with your daughter." Kylie set the pastries down carefully on the nearest table. I watched her take a deep breath, like she was gathering strength. She walked over to Sophie with her head held high. "I am thinking that I am 52 years old, Sophie, and I get to make my own choices about who I spend time with." Sophie laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Choices? You are embarrassing yourself." "You are embarrassing me." I stepped forward then, because I could not let Sophie talk to Kylie like that. "I am 34, not 20, Sophie, and what your mother and I have isn't about you at all." Sophie's eyes flashed with something mean. She pulled out her mobile phone again and started typing fast. "Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you when everyone finds out what kind of a person you really are." She looked at me with pure hate. "I am going to tell everyone the truth about your proposal, that it was fake, that you made a fool of my mother in public because she got stood up. I know you, Lachlan. You are too nice to do something this crazy unless you were saving a stray dog or a stray mother." My stomach dropped. If Sophie exposed us before we were ready, it would look so much worse than if we told people ourselves. It would confirm every insecurity Kylie had. Kylie grabbed Sophie's wrist gently but firmly. "Sophie, please, do not do this." "Give me one reason why I shouldn't," Sophie challenged. "You are lying to everyone." "It is pathetic." "Because I am happy," Kylie shouted, her voice cracking. "For the first time in 5 years, I am not invisible. Is that so terrible?" Sophie stopped. She looked at her mother, really looked at her, and for a second I saw the hurt child beneath the anger. "You are happy with him?" Sophie pointed at me. "The man I loved?" "The man you cheated on," Kylie said softly. Silence fell over the shop. Sophie recoiled as if she had been slapped. She looked from Kylie to me, realizing that I had told her mother the truth about the affair with Ben. "You two deserve each other," Sophie whispered. "And when this blows up in your faces, do not come crying to me." She turned and stormed out of the shop, the doorbell jingling cheerfully behind her, a stark contrast to the devastation she left in the room. The coffee shop was dead silent, except for the espresso machine hissing in the background. The customers were pretending not to listen, but the atmosphere was thick with tension. Kylie turned to me with wide, terrified eyes. She looked like she was about to shatter into 1,000 pieces. "She is going to do it. She is going to destroy everything." "We can fix this," I said, reaching for her hand. Kylie pulled away. She shook her head, backing towards the door. "No, Lachlan, we cannot fix this. She is my daughter. I cannot lose her over a business arrangement." "Is that all this is?" I asked, feeling a sharp pain in my chest. "Just a business arrangement?" Kylie looked at me, and I saw tears tracking through her perfect makeup. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know what is real anymore. But I know I cannot do this. The deal is off. I am sorry." She turned and ran out the door, chasing after Sophie, leaving me standing alone in the middle of Laneway Espresso. The shop was full of people, but I had never felt more alone in my life. That night, for the first time in weeks, Kylie did not call. I sat in my apartment, staring at the eviction notice, realizing that losing the shop suddenly felt like the least of my problems. For 3 days, I did not sleep. I sat in my apartment above Laneway Espresso, watching the dust motes dance in the afternoon light, ignoring the constant ringing of my mobile telephone. Kylie had gone silent. The deal was over. According to our plan, we were supposed to wait until January to announce the separation. But after Sophie's threat, it felt like the end had arrived early. On the morning of New Year's Eve, I woke up with a clarity that only comes when you have absolutely nothing left to lose. I looked at the eviction notice on my table. Then I looked at the empty spot on the counter where Kylie used to sit every morning, organising my chaotic business receipts. "Sod it," I said to the empty room. "I am not going down without a fight." I drove my battered utility vehicle to Kylie's house in Camberwell. I did not call first because I knew she would tell me not to come. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw her sitting on the front porch steps, wrapped in a large woolen cardigan, staring blankly at the garden. She looked exhausted. She stood up when she saw me walking up the path. "Lachlan, you should not be here. Sophie is coming over in an hour. If she sees you—" "I do not care about Sophie right now," I said, stopping at the bottom of the steps. "And I do not care about the coffee shop or the eviction notice or what your sister Sharon thinks." Kylie crossed her arms, shivering slightly in the morning breeze. "Then what do you care about?" "You," I said. "I care that you are about to throw away the first real happiness you have had in years because you are scared." "I am not scared. I am a mother," she snapped, her eyes flashing. "You do not understand. I cannot choose a man over my daughter." "You do not have to choose," I said, walking up the steps until I was standing right in front of her. "Sophie is angry because she thinks we are lying to her. She thinks this is a game. She thinks I am using you. And she thinks you are having a midlife crisis." I took her hands. They were cold, just like that first night at the restaurant. "So let us tell the truth, all of it, before Sophie does." "You mean confess?" Kylie whispered. "Tell everyone it was a fake engagement. We will be the laughingstock of Melbourne. My career will be over." "Maybe," I admitted. "Or maybe people will see two human beings who found each other in a messy, complicated situation and fell in love anyway." I looked deep into her eyes. "Because I did, Kylie. Fall in love, I mean. Somewhere between the inventory checks and the cemetery visits, I stopped pretending." Kylie stared at me. A tear rolled down her cheek. "You really are a fool, Lachlan." "I know," I smiled, "but I am your fool. So are we doing this?" We set up my mobile telephone on her kitchen table. No professional lighting, no makeup team, no script, just us. We hit the record button. I started talking first. I explained everything from seeing her getting stood up at Salt and Vine, to the panic, to the ring that belonged to Nana Betty. Then Kylie spoke. She talked about the loneliness of her divorce, the feeling of being invisible, and how terrified she was to let anyone in again. "We started this as a lie to save my pride," Kylie said to the camera, her voice steady and strong. "But the feelings I have now are the most honest thing in my life. I am sorry we lied, but I am not sorry I met him." We posted the video at noon. Then we turned off our telephones and waited. By the time Sophie arrived at 2 o'clock, the video had already been shared 50,000 times. Sophie walked into the kitchen looking like she was ready for war, but she stopped when she saw us sitting together at the table holding hands. "I saw the video," Sophie said stiffly. Kylie stood up. "Then you know the truth. You can still be angry, Sophie. You have every right to be, but I am not going to apologise for being in love. And I am not going to let you bully me into being unhappy anymore." Sophie looked at her mother, really looked at her, and then looked at me. I expected her to scream. I expected her to storm out again. Instead, Sophie let out a long, ragged sigh and slumped into a chair. "You two are unbelievable," she muttered. "The comments section is full of people calling it The most romantic thing since The Notebook. Wait, really? I asked. Sophie rolled her eyes, but the venom was gone from her voice. Yes, apparently honesty is trending. She looked at Kylie. I am still weirded out, Mum. It is going to take me a long time to get used to this, but I don't want you to be alone. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a start. Underscore, 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 4 months later. The autumn leaves were falling on the streets of Melbourne, painting the city in shades of gold and rust. Laneway Espresso was packed. We had paid off the rent arrears in January, and thanks to Kylie's brilliance, we were now opening a second location in Fitzroy. I closed the shop early on a Tuesday evening. I told Kylie I needed help with a plumbing issue in the back, which was a terrible lie, but she came anyway. When she walked in, there was no plumbing disaster. The shop was dark, lit only by hundreds of candles flickering on the tables. The smell of roasted coffee beans and fresh lilies filled the air. Kylie stopped in the doorway, her hand flying to her mouth. Lachlan, what is this? I was standing by the window, wearing a new suit, one that actually fit me this time. I was holding a small velvet box. The first time I proposed to you, I said, walking toward her, it was to save you from embarrassment in a room full of strangers. It was a performance. I stopped in front of her. Her eyes were shining in the candlelight. But tonight there is no audience, I continued. There are no cameras, no newspapers, no deal. I dropped to one knee. I opened the box. Inside sat Nana Betty's ring. I'd taken it back from her in January so I could do this properly. Kylie O'Brien, you are the smartest, strongest, and most beautiful woman I have ever known. You saved my business, but more importantly, you saved me. I took a deep breath. Will you marry me? For real this time? Kylie laughed, a sound that was half sob and half joy. She dropped to her knees so she was eye level with me. Yes, she whispered, pulling me into a kiss that tasted like coffee and forever. Yes, I will. Outside, the Melbourne tram rattled past and the city lights twinkled in the distance. But in that little coffee shop in the laneway, we were the only two people in the world. And this time, we didn't have to pretend at all. The end.